The wallet hit the carpet 2 feet from her shoe. She didn't bend for it. By the time Loretta Beaumont came back to her station with a glass of water, the wallet was gone. Picked up by another woman, then another, then another. 4 women in cream coats and pearl earrings, each one with a story they told themselves, while their fingers found the cash. Loretta was the 5th. She was the only one who returned it untouched. She was the only one who didn't open it. She didn't know the man at the back booth in the charcoal 3-piece suit owned the lounge she worked in. She didn't know he had a white dragon tattoo curling under his collar. She didn't know the wallet contained $14,000 and the driver's license of a man who did not exist. She didn't know any of it. She had an eviction notice folded inside her coat pocket and a daughter asleep in a room that used to be a closet. And she walked the wallet to the host stand, because that was the kind of woman she was at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday in Manhattan. But the wallet was not the test. The wallet was never the test. And the woman watching her from a library on East 79th Street had been waiting for Loretta Beaumont for 20 years. Before starting the story, comment down below where you are watching from and what time it is there. If stories of karma, love, and hidden truths move you, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a member and help our channel. Loretta folded the envelope twice before she put it inside her coat pocket. The fold was a habit. The fold was so the paper wouldn't crinkle when she leaned down to set glasses on the low tables in the back section. The envelope said final notice in red block letters across the front. She had already read what it said inside. Twice was enough. She crossed 52nd Street at 10:51. The cold off the avenue caught her at the collar, and she pulled the wool tighter. The Velvet Tiger sat between a closed travel agency and a building that used to be a bank. The sign above the door was small and gold and read nothing but a single character. Ho! That most people on the block had stopped noticing years ago. Loretta hadn't. She read it every night. The service entrance was around the corner. She punched the code, pushed the heavy door, and the warmth hit her before the noise did. The kitchen was already moving. Someone shouted a ticket number in Korean. Someone else laughed. The chef who didn't like her nodded at her anyway, because she had stopped giving him a reason not to. Patricia was at the staff lockers, braiding her ponytail tighter. You're on 12 through 20 tonight. Loretta hung her coat. She put the eviction envelope deeper into the pocket and zipped it. 12 through 20 is the wall. Boss's guests are coming in at midnight, Patricia said. I need the booths. She didn't turn around. Don't make it a thing, Loretta. Please. Loretta tied the burgundy apron at her hip. The knot took 2 tries because her hands were colder than she'd noticed. She walked past Patricia without saying anything. Because saying anything cost her tips, and tips cost her Imani's school deposit. And the school deposit was due Friday. The wall section was the worst section. 4 tops, no view, no servers passing through with refills they could pretend belonged to her tables. She stood her station, smiled the smile she had practiced in the staff bathroom mirror when she was 22, and started taking orders. By midnight, the lounge had filled. A jazz trio was setting up on the small raised platform near the bar. The bassist running scales, with a cigarette burning between 2 fingers, not allowed and never stopped. The booths along the back wall, the booths Patricia had wanted, sat empty until 12:15, when a Korean man in a charcoal 3-piece suit walked through the front and was seated in the largest one without a word. He came alone. He sat with his back to the wall. Loretta noticed him because everyone noticed him. She noticed him a second time sharper, when he stood up at 1:15 and walked the long way around the floor to the men's room. He passed her station. He did not look at her. As he passed, something dropped from somewhere. His coat, his pocket, the cuff of his sleeve, she didn't see exactly where, and landed on the carpet 2 feet from her left shoe. A wallet. Black leather, thick, soft from use, no chain. He kept walking. She glanced after him. He didn't slow, didn't pat his pockets, didn't turn his head. He disappeared around the corner toward the back. She stood where she was. The jazz trio finished a verse. Someone at table 15 lifted a glass at her, mouthed water, and she nodded and started walking that direction. She did not bend for the wallet. There was a couple at table 17 who had a clear view of it. There was a man alone at table 18 who had a clearer one. She left the wallet where it was and went to get the water. When she came back 2 minutes later, the wallet was gone. She didn't think about it again until 1:40. At 1:40, the woman in the cream cashmere coat at table 14 got up and walked toward the bar. The cream coat was draped over the back of her chair. The black leather wallet was tucked underneath the cream coat. Loretta saw the corner of it stick out as the woman stood. She watched the woman walk to the bar, lean across, laugh at something the bartender said, and return with a martini. The woman sat back down. She slid the wallet into her oversized tote, then took it back out 20 seconds later. She opened it under the table. Loretta watched her hands. The woman took out a thick fold of bills, separated some, folded the rest back, and closed the wallet. Then the woman stood up again, walked the wallet over to the host stand, and said something quiet to the hostess. The hostess nodded. The woman returned to her table, finished her martini, and left a $40 tip on an $80 tab. The bills she had taken out of the wallet were not in her hand. That was the first one. The second one happened at 2:50, a redhead in a gray pinstripe blazer at the bar. Loretta clocked her because she had ordered 3 old-fashioneds and not finished any of them, bent down to pick something up off the floor. She came up with the wallet. She held it for a long time. She turned in her seat. She looked left, then right, then opened the wallet flat on the bar in front of her like a menu. She didn't take cash. She took a photograph of the inside of the wallet with her phone, 2 angles. Then she closed it and walked it to the host stand and said it was hers. Dropped it earlier, just remembered. The hostess called the back. The wallet went somewhere. 5 minutes later, the redhead was gone. The third one Loretta only caught the tail end of. A Korean-American woman in a camel coat at table 11. Loretta had served her water twice, had the wallet in her lap for almost 20 minutes. When she walked it to the host stand, she walked it carefully, with her shoulders square, like she was returning a library book. The wallet was thinner than it had been when it dropped. The fourth one made Loretta look away. An older woman, navy coat, pearl earrings, who had been laughing too loud at the trio's set since midnight, found the wallet near the bathroom hallway around 2:55. She took it back to her chair. She drank slowly from a glass of red wine. She opened the wallet on her lap with one hand. She slid 2 bills out, folded them small, tucked them into the cup of her bra without breaking eye contact with the bassist. Then she walked the wallet to the host stand and smiled. Loretta wiped the wood of table 16. She ran a damp cloth over the rim of a low glass that wasn't dirty. She did not look at the host stand. She did not look at the back booth. She did not look at the corner where she could still see, somewhere in the soft dark, the outline of the Korean man at his table. At 2:04, her last guest spilled half a whiskey sour on the carpet near table 19. She knelt with a towel. The carpet was dark red wool, and the whiskey would not show in the morning. But she pressed at it anyway, because the motion was a thing to do. Her knee touched something soft, black leather, thick, soft from use. The wallet had circled the room. It was at her station. She picked it up with 2 fingers, the way a person picks up something that belongs to someone else. She did not open it. She did not weigh it in her palm. She stood up, walked the long way around the floor so she would not pass the back booth, and brought the wallet to the host stand. The hostess looked up. Her name was Mina. "Someone dropped this in section 20, Loretta said. "I didn't see who." Mina took it. "You want to write it on the slip? Loretta Beaumont, station 20, 2:04. Mina wrote it. She set the wallet in the small lockbox under the stand. She gave Loretta a strange look, longer than necessary, then turned back to her seating chart. Loretta went back to her station. She wiped the spill again. She refilled a water she did not need to refill. She took her smoke break in the alley behind the kitchen at 2:32 and didn't smoke because she had quit 4 years ago when Imani learned the word smoke. She stood in the cold with her hands in her apron pockets and watched her own breath, and the eviction envelope crackled inside her coat pocket every time her ribs moved. At 3:40, her last table paid out. She bussed it slowly. She tipped out the bar and the runners, and she had $81 after, which was $23 less than yesterday and $48 less than the day before that. She was unknotting the apron at the staff lockers when Patricia came around the corner. "Minjae is asking for you." Loretta paused with the apron halfway down. "Minjae who?" "The one who comes in with the boss." Patricia's voice was flatter than it had been at the start of the shift. "He's at the back booth. He says it'll be quick." Loretta tied the apron back on out of habit. She walked across the empty lounge floor. The trio was gone. The lights had been brought up 2 clicks, the way they always were after last call, and the room looked smaller and older than it had at midnight. The back booth was no longer empty. The Korean man in the charcoal 3-piece suit sat where he had sat for 4 hours. Beside him, standing with one hand on the back of the booth, was a second Korean man in a black turtleneck. Broader, older looking around the eyes, a faint break in the bridge of his nose. He smiled when he saw her, and the smile was a strange thing because it didn't go anywhere on his face except his mouth. And it stayed there longer than smiles usually stay. "Miss Beaumont," he said, "I'm Cha Min-jae. The owner of the wallet would like a word." The man at the booth looked up. His eyes were level. His collar was open 1 button, and at the base of his throat, on the right side of his neck, a thin white line curled up out of the cloth. The tail of something inked there, a shape she could not quite read in that light. The eviction envelope crackled in her coat pocket as she breathed. She did not sit down yet. The man in the charcoal suit did not stand. He gestured with 2 fingers at the seat across from him. "Please," he said. His voice was lower than she had expected. "It will be 3 minutes of your night." Loretta sat. She kept her coat on. The eviction envelope was at her hip. Cha Min-jae stepped back 2 paces from the booth. Not far enough to leave them alone. Far enough that she could not pretend he was part of the conversation. "My name is Seok Jin Han," the man said. "I own this lounge. I own the building you walk through to get to it. The wallet you returned an hour ago contained $14,400 in cash. It also contained the driver's license of a man who does not exist." He paused. "It contained 4 photographs. None of those photographs were of me." She listened. She did not move. "5 women picked up that wallet tonight," he said. 4 of them in some way helped themselves. You are the 5th. I knew it wasn't mine. Most of them knew that too." She let that sit. The trio's chairs had been folded against the wall behind her. The bartender ran water somewhere out of sight. "What do you want from me?" "A job." His eyes did not move from her face. "Daytime hours. 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. No nights. The Han Hotel on 57th Street. I am offering you the position of personal hospitality liaison. The work is real. It involves my family's, foreign guests, translation when needed, the kind of small problems that a guest does not want to take to a concierge. The salary is $92,000 a year. There is an envelope on the bench beside you, under your coat. It contains a month in advance, in cash. You can count it now. I would prefer if you didn't." She did not look at the bench. She had felt it when she sat down, the faint extra weight against her thigh. "No." He did not blink. "You haven't heard the rest of it. There isn't a rest of it." She set her hands flat on the table. They were steady. "I work in a lounge owned by you. I returned a wallet that fell 2 feet from my shoe. There is nothing in that exchange that makes me worth a month in advance." "The exchange," he said, "is exactly what makes you worth it." She shook her head once. "I'm a waitress. You don't pay a waitress $92,000 a year because she didn't steal from you." I pay a person $92,000 a year, he said. Because most of the people I have paid more than that have stolen from me. She looked at him. There was no humor in his face. No, the offer is the offer. No. He nodded slowly, as if she had said something he understood. He glanced down at the table once, then up at her, and the line of his mouth changed by a millimeter. If I take this, she said, what exactly am I to you? He took a moment. He did not look at Min-jae. He did not look at the envelope under her coat. I am not certain yet, he said. But the woman who returned the wallet is the only woman in this city I am willing to find out about. She felt the eviction envelope at her hip the way a person feels a stone in their shoe. She did not say yes that night. She told him she would think about it. She slid out of the booth without touching the envelope under her coat. She walked back to the staff lockers. She took her coat down. The bench had nothing on it. The weight she had felt was not real, or it had been moved while she was speaking. She could not tell which. In her own coat pocket, when she got home at 4:20, she found a thin white envelope folded the same way the eviction notice was folded. Inside it was a single business card with a phone number written in pen. No name, no logo. On the back, in small careful handwriting, Friday, 9 a.m. Han Hotel, 57th. The decision is yours alone. She sat at her kitchen table until the sun came up. She did not turn on the light. Imani was asleep down the hall, in the room that used to be a closet before Loretta had pulled the door off and put a curtain there. The eviction envelope was on the table in front of her. The business card was beside it. She put her thumb on the eviction envelope. Then she put her thumb on the card. Then she put both hands in her lap and sat for another 40 minutes. She called the number at 8:58 on Friday morning. She started the following Monday. The Han Hotel was a converted brownstone with 26 rooms and a lobby that looked nothing like a lobby. There was no front desk. There was a long, low wooden counter staffed by 2 people who did not wear uniforms, a single curved bench in dark green velvet, and a quiet that money pays for. Loretta was given a small office on the 2nd floor, with a window onto 57th, a phone, a laptop, and a list of guests with notes in 2 languages. Her first week, she rebooked a Tokyo couple's flight after a death in their family, arranged a cardiologist appointment within 4 hours for a Seoul executive whose wife had collapsed in the lobby, and ate her lunch alone at her desk every day. She did not see Seok Jin-han once. The 2nd week, she saw him twice, both times in passing, in the corridor, with Min-jae a step behind him. He nodded at her. He did not stop. The first time, she had been carrying a folder. The 2nd time, she had not. The nod was the same. She paid her rent on time for the first time in 7 months. She paid the school deposit. She paid the lower of 2 minimum payments on the medical debt. She put $140 into a coffee can in the back of the kitchen cabinet because she did not yet trust the new bank account. The 3rd week, on a Thursday afternoon, the woman who staffed the wooden counter knocked on Loretta's office door. Mrs. Han would like to see you. Loretta paused at her laptop. Mr. Han. No, the woman said. Mrs. A car was waiting at the curb. Min-jae sat in the front beside the driver. He nodded at her in the mirror. He did not speak. The car drove north and east. The trees were heavier here. The buildings were older. They stopped in front of a stone townhouse on East 799th, 4 stories, no number on the door, a single small brass plaque set in the frame that said Han. A housekeeper let her in. She took Loretta's coat. She did not take Loretta's name. She walked Loretta up 1 flight of stairs, down a corridor lined with shelves of books, to a single door at the end. She knocked once. She opened the door. She stepped aside. The room was a library. The walls were lined with books to the ceiling on 3 sides. A bay window on the 4th looked out onto a small interior garden where a single bare maple stood. There were 2 chairs near the window. There was a low table between them. There was tea already poured into 2 cups. One of the cups had not been touched. The other was being held by a woman who was not standing up. The woman was small. She wore a wine-colored hanbok jacket over straight black slacks. Her silver-white hair was pulled into a low knot held by a tortoise-shell pin. A jade bangle sat on her left wrist. She did not turn her head when Loretta entered. She looked at the maple in the garden. "Sit down, Ms. Beaumont." Loretta sat. The cup of tea in front of her was the color of light through amber. Steam came off it. She did not lift it. "My name is Suyeon Han," the old woman said. Her English was careful and unhurried. "I am Sesikjin's grandmother. He calls me Halmoni. You may also, Mrs. Han." The old woman smiled at the window. The smile was small. The smile did not include her eyes. "There are shipping documents in the side drawer of this table," she said. "From the 1970s. My husband kept them. They are written in a Korean my grandson does not read. I was told you could read them." "I read some. That is what I was told." Loretta did not move toward the drawer. The old woman did not gesture toward it. The maple in the garden did not move either, because there was no wind. "How is your daughter?" Loretta heard the question before she understood it. She put her hands on her knees under the table. "My daughter is fine. Imani is 8, the old woman said, still not looking. She is in 3rd grade at PS 138 in Crown Heights. She walks to school with the girl from the apartment above yours. Her father has not seen her in 14 months. He missed 2 birthdays. You folded an eviction notice into the inner pocket of your coat. On the night you returned my grandson C's wallet. The eviction notice was the second one. The first one came in August. You did not open the second one for 9 days because you already knew what it said." The teacup in front of Loretta had stopped steaming. The old woman turned her head finally and looked at Loretta directly. Her eyes were dark and old and entirely awake. "I have not asked you here," she said, "to read shipping documents." Loretta did not speak. "You understand." Loretta nodded once. The old woman lifted her own cup. She drank. She set it down. "Good," she said. "Then we may begin." The conversation in the library lasted 92 minutes. Loretta drove home in the back of the car she had not asked for, watched Manhattan turn into Brooklyn through tinted glass, and did not know what part of herself she was carrying back across the bridge. Halmoni had not asked her to take a role. Halmoni had only asked questions. Questions about Loretta's mother, who had been dead 12 years. Questions about Loretta's older sister Selma, who had been dead 3. Questions about what Loretta had done with her sister's wedding band after the funeral. Loretta had touched the gold chain at her throat with 2 fingers, not lifting it from under her shirt. And the old woman had nodded once and changed the subject. Loretta slept badly for the next 8 nights. She did her job. She did it well. She did not call Seokjin. Did not call her. The card in her drawer was a single phone number with no name. She left it where it was. On the 9th night, at 7:42 on a Tuesday morning, someone knocked on her apartment door. Imani was at the kitchen table, eating cereal in her school sweater. Loretta was at the sink rinsing a mug. The knock came again before she had set the mug down. It was not the building super's knock. It was not the upstairs neighbor's knock. It was 3 slow ones with a pause between the second and the third, the way Daniel had always knocked when he was about to ask for something. She opened the door 3 inches with the chain still on. Daniel was standing in the hallway in the puffer jacket from 4 winters ago. He had a manila folder in his hand and the corner of his mouth set the way he said it when he had decided to be reasonable. "Open the door, Loretta. Imani has school in 20 minutes. Open it, or I come back at 3 with a different conversation." She closed the door. She unhooked the chain. She opened it again. He stepped past her into the kitchen. Imani looked up from her cereal, and Loretta watched her daughter's face do the thing she had taught it to do, which was to go still. "Hey, baby girl. Hi, eat your breakfast." He turned to Loretta. He set the folder on the counter. "We need to talk in the other room." She walked him into the hallway because there was no other room. He opened the folder. Inside the folder was a printout of a web page. The web page was from a blog she did not recognize. The headline was "Mafia Boss Spotted with mystery black woman at Midtown Gala. There was a photograph below it. The photograph was of Loretta and Seok Jin Han, taken from across a hotel lobby through a window. Loretta was carrying a clipboard. Seok Jin was 3 steps behind her with his hand half raised towards something off-frame. They were not touching. They were not even close. Whoever had taken the photograph had cropped it tight enough that they looked like they were. "This was last week," Daniel said. "This is on the internet." She did not answer. "You're running with criminals, Loretta." "I'm working a job. Working a job. Working a job for the Korean Mafia, Loretta. Working a job that puts my daughter in the same room as men who carry guns to dinner." "Your daughter," she said quietly, "has not seen you in 14 months. His jaw tightened. The chipped front tooth showed for half a second. "I'm filing for emergency custody at 1 o'clock this afternoon," he said. "I have a lawyer. He's free. He says we have a case. He says he can get a temporary order by Thursday, or," he paused, "or you and I work something out quiet between us. Cash. Whatever you've been making at this new job, I get half until the custody paperwork goes back to the way it was." She looked at him. She looked for a long time. She did not raise her voice. "Get out of my apartment." He stood there. "Get out, Daniel. You're going to regret. Get out." He took the folder. He took it slowly. He set it on the counter beside Imani's cereal bowl, face down, so that the headline was hidden, which was the only kindness he had shown her in a decade. Then he left. Loretta walked Imani to school at 8:15. She held her daughter's hand all 4 blocks. At the school gate, Imani looked up. "Mommy." "Yes, baby. That paper Daddy left. Don't think about that paper. Okay." Imani went inside. Loretta stood at the gate until the door closed. Then she turned and walked back to the apartment. And she did not feel her feet on the sidewalk for any of those 4 blocks. Marcia Cole arrived at 3:20 that afternoon. Marcia had been Loretta's caseworker for 2 years. They were not friends. They were the next closest thing 2 women in adjacent rooms of the system can be to friends. Marcia sat at the kitchen table. She put her bag on the floor. She did not take out a notepad. "Honey, don't." He filed at 1. "I know. They're going to send someone tomorrow to talk to Imani. I know. You need to tell me everything about this job. Now, before I walk into that hearing on Thursday," Loretta told her. She told her the truth, which was that she had returned a wallet, that she had been offered a job, that the job was real, that the man who had offered it had not touched her, that she had done nothing she would not say in a courtroom. Marcia listened. Marcia asked 3 questions. Marcia closed her eyes and pressed her fingers against the bridge of her nose. "Loretta, I know. The picture is on the internet. I know. The picture is on the internet, and the judge on Thursday is a man named Albert Chen, and Albert Chen has 2 daughters, and Albert Chen is going to look at that picture, and Albert Chen is going to look at your job description, and Albert Chen is going to send Imani to Atlanta until somebody can prove a different story. I have a different story. You have a true story. You don't have a different one." The Thursday hearing was 48 minutes long. Loretta did not have a lawyer because she had not had time to find one, and the legal aid line had a 4-week wait. Daniel's lawyer was free and uninterested. The judge was tired. He asked Loretta about the photograph. He asked her about Mr. Han. He asked her if she could state, under oath, that she had not received any gift, compensation, or favor from any person associated with organized crime. She answered each question. The judge listened. The judge signed the temporary order. Imani was to fly to Atlanta on Sunday evening to live with Daniel's mother, Patrice Beaumont, pending a full custody review in 90 days. Loretta packed Imani's small green suitcase on Sunday afternoon. She folded each shirt twice. She put the unicorn keychain on top of the clothes. She put a photograph of the 2 of them at the Brooklyn Botanic Garden in the inside pocket, the one with the zipper. She wrote a note on the back of the photograph that said, "I will come for you soon. I love you more than the whole sky." She zipped the pocket. She closed the suitcase. She drove Imani to JFK in a borrowed car. Imani held her hand through the entire terminal. At the gate, Loretta knelt down so they were eye to eye. Imani's 2 braids were slightly uneven that morning because Loretta's hands had been shaking when she did the second one. Baby. Yes, Mommy. You are going to Grandma Patrice for a little while. Yes, it is not because I don't want you. I know. I am going to bring you home. I know, the flight attendant called the boarding number. Imani let go of Loretta's hand. She walked to the gate. She turned around once. She lifted her small hand in a wave that was so small it almost did not count as a wave, and Loretta watched her daughter give it to her anyway. Then Imani was gone. Loretta walked back through the terminal at the same pace she had walked in. She did not cry in the parking garage. She did not cry on the BQE. She drove the borrowed car back to her building and parked it 3 blocks away because the spot was free and because 3 blocks was the right distance. She sat in the driver's seat with the engine off. The car cooled around her. The streetlight outside the window came on. She did not move for an hour. Then she reached up with 2 fingers and unhooked the thin gold chain at the back of her neck. She lifted it out from under her shirt. Selma's wedding band slid down into her palm. She held the band. The metal was warm from her skin. She looked at it for a long time. She did not put it back on. She opened the glove compartment of the borrowed car. She set the chain and the ring inside. She closed the glove compartment. She did not call Seokjin Han. She did not call Halmoni Han. She did not call Marcia Cole. She did not call her mother's grave, which she sometimes did when there was no one else. She got out of the car. She walked the 3 blocks home. She let herself into the apartment. She closed the door. She did not turn on the light. She walked into the room that used to be a closet, and she sat down on the floor beside her daughter's empty bed. And she stayed there until morning. Halmoni Han's housekeeper called her on Wednesday morning at 9:08. Mrs. Han would like you to come to the house at 2 this afternoon. Loretta did not answer right away. She was at her kitchen table. The eviction envelope was open in front of her. So was the envelope of cash from the back of the cabinet, the coffee can with $140, and a custody attorney intake form she had downloaded and had not filled in. The attorney charged $600 for an initial consultation. The coffee can did not cover it. The envelope did. Tell her I'll be there at 2. She drove herself. She parked 6 blocks away on East 73rd and walked. She wore the cream turtleneck and the charcoal coat. She had taken the gold chain out of the glove compartment that morning and put it back around her neck because she wanted Selma with her in that room. The housekeeper let her in. She took Loretta's coat, walked her up 1 flight, down the corridor of books, opened the door at the end, stepped aside. The library was the same library. The bare maple in the garden had 3 small green points on its lowest branches that had not been there 3 weeks ago. 2 cups of tea sat on the table between the chairs. Neither had been touched. Halmoni Han was already seated. She wore an indigo hanbok jacket today. The jade bangle was on the same wrist. Her eyes turned toward Loretta the moment Loretta crossed the threshold. Sit down, Ms. Beaumont. Loretta sat. She did not lift the cup. You have come to resign. Yes, the old woman nodded once. She reached down beside her chair and lifted a small, flat envelope from the floor. She placed it on the table between them. It was the size of a paperback book. It was old. The paper was yellowed at the corners. Before you do, she said, open this. Loretta did not move. Open it, Miss Beaumont. Loretta opened it. Inside the envelope was a single photograph. It was a Polaroid. The colors had faded to a soft, warm green at the edges, the way Polaroids fade after 20 years. The photograph showed a hospital room. A narrow bed against a window. An old Korean woman lying in the bed, eyes closed, hair white and thin against the pillow, an V taped to the back of one hand. Sitting in a chair beside the bed, holding the old woman's other hand, was a black woman in her late 30s, in a pale blue hospice nurse's uniform with a small gold cross at the collar, her hair pulled back in a low bun. Loretta did not breathe for a count of 4. Mom, yes. The black woman in the photograph was Gloria Beaumont, Loretta's mother, 12 years dead this March. That photograph was taken on September the 9th, 1996, Halmoni said, 3 days before my older sister passed. Her name was Yunmi. She was the only family I had in this country, other than my husband, and he had been gone 7 months at that point. Loretta looked at her mother's face in the photograph. Her mother had been wearing the small gold cross when she died. Loretta still had it in a wooden box on top of her dresser. My sister had pancreatic cancer, Halmoni said. She came to live with me when she could no longer live alone. When the pain was beyond what I could manage, she went to a hospice in the Bronx. I had the money to put her in a private one in Manhattan. She refused. She said she did not want to die above a view she had not earned. She went to the Bronx, to a public hospice, and that is where she met your mother. Loretta's hand on the table was shaking. She set the photograph down. She did not pick up the tea. Your mother was assigned to her case for the last 14 days. Your mother was a hospice nurse with a caseload of 19 patients. Your mother sat with my sister for 2 and 3, and sometimes 4 hours at a time, after her shift, without billing for it. When my sister could no longer hold a conversation in Korean, your mother sang to her in English. Your mother sang her hymns my sister did not know the words to, but heard the rhythm of. Your mother was holding my sister's hand when my sister passed, at 3:47 in the morning on September the 12th, 1996. I was not in the room. I was in the cafeteria. I had gone to get water. Your mother stayed. Halmoni paused. She took a breath that took longer than a breath should take. When I came back, your mother told me my sister had said something in Korean at the end. One word. Your mother could not pronounce it. Your mother had written it down phonetically on a paper napkin. The word was gomawo. It means thank you. My sister had said thank you to your mother, and your mother had stayed until I came back so that I would know. Loretta's eyes had filled. She did not lift a hand to her face. I went to your mother's funeral, Halmoni said. You did not see me. I sat in the third pew on the left. I left a single white envelope on the table at the back without my name on it. $3,000. I had asked the funeral home to make sure the family received it without question. Loretta remembered the envelope. She had thought it was from her mother's parish. I made a promise to myself that day, Halmoni said. If your mother's family ever crossed my path, I would know. I would know without being told. I would know in the only way that I trusted, which was by watching. She looked at Loretta. Her eyes were entirely awake. My grandson did not drop that wallet, she said. Min Jae did. On my instruction. In a lounge, I asked Seok-jin to bring me to that night. I did not tell my grandson why. I did not tell him who I was watching for. I told him only to sit at that booth in that suit, and to wait. Loretta breathed in. She breathed out. She did not speak. You were not chosen, Halmoni said, because you were poor and black and useful. You were chosen because your mother had already chosen my sister in a room with no audience 20 years before any of us were watching. Loretta sat very still. Then she said quietly, Mrs. Han? Yes, I will not be a chosen bride. The old woman did not blink. I am not a thing your family discovered. Loretta's voice was steady now. My dignity was not in that wallet. It was in me before I walked into that lounge. It was in my mother before she walked into that hospice. It is not yours to award, and it is not yours to take back. I know. If your grandson wants to know me, he will know me the way my mother knew your sister. He will sit with me, slowly, without strings, without test, without an envelope on a bench, without a job he had to invent because the truth was easier to deliver inside an offer. I know. I will return all of the money beyond the first month. I will keep the first month because the first month bought my daughter her school year, and I will not apologize for that. You will not. And if your grandson does not want to know me on those terms, Then I have a job to find and a daughter to bring home from Atlanta, and you and I will not see each other again, Mrs. Han, but I will think of you when I think of my mother, and that is more than most people get from me." The old woman looked at Loretta for a long time. Then she did something Loretta had not seen her do. She nodded. The nod was small. It was very small. It did not include her face. But it was a nod, and it was the only approval. Loretta would learn later that the woman had ever given a non-Korean woman in her life. Loretta hired the custody attorney that afternoon. $600 for the consultation, $2,800 for the retainer. She used the cash in full. The attorney filed the appeal on Friday. The judge on the appeal was not Albert Chen. The judge on the appeal listened. The judge asked Daniel 3 questions, and Daniel answered the third one in a way that the judge wrote down very carefully. Imani came home from Atlanta 6 weeks later. She walked off the jetway with the unicorn keychain in her right hand and her boarding pass in her left. And when she saw Loretta, she ran the last 20 feet of the corridor, and Loretta picked her up off the floor of LaGuardia and held her so that nothing else fit in the frame. Seokjin Han called her 2 weeks after the meeting with Halmoni. He did not ask her to dinner. He asked her to coffee. He came alone. He paid for his own. He asked her one question and listened to her answer for 40 minutes without interrupting. When the coffee was finished, he asked if he could call her again the following week, and she said yes, and he did. He courted her for 11 months, slowly, in coffee shops and in museums on Sunday afternoons, and at one quiet dinner at his grandmother's residence, where Halmoni asked Imani if she could braid the little girl's hair, and Loretta watched the old woman do it badly, and her daughter laugh anyway. The wallet test was never mentioned. He never asked. She never told him what she had thought. When the wallet first hit the carpet, it became the one thing between them that neither one would touch. A year to the day after the night at the Velvet Tiger, Loretta walked back through the front door of the lounge. She was not in uniform. She was in a long charcoal coat over a midnight blue dress, Selma's wedding band warm at her throat, her hair down, her hands empty. The hostess looked up. The hostess did not recognize her for a beat. Then she did. "Miss Beaumont. Just 2, please. The back booth, if it's open." Patricia was not on shift that night. The trio was setting up. The bassist had a different cigarette and the same scales. Seok-jin walked in 2 steps behind her in his charcoal 3-piece, and he did not look at the host stand, and he did not look anywhere except at the back of her head, the way a man looks at a woman whose footsteps he has decided to follow for as long as she will let him. She sat in the booth where he had sat that first night. He sat across from her. She had been the only woman who didn't open the wallet, because she was already the only one who knew exactly what was inside. If this story moved you, stop for a moment and reflect. Have you ever been kind to a stranger when nobody was watching, and wondered if it mattered? Have you ever carried your mother's quiet inheritance? The small, unwitnessed things she did for people who could never repay her. Without realizing, those choices were already shaping doors that would open for you decades later. Tell us your experiences and feelings in the comments. We read them all. If you want to go deeper into this world, our Patreon community is the extension of this channel. Extra sagas, bonus chapters, no ads, link below. And if you believe in stories about dignity, inheritance, and the quiet weight of integrity, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a part of our community and help the channel.